everyone, this is Bill, one of the Cryptid Brothers, and I thank you so much for clicking on tonight's episode. I think you're thoroughly going to enjoy this one. For Lane, Dave, Lance, and myself, we really appreciate our listeners out there for liking, subscribing, and sharing. It really means a lot to us, and we're well over 14,000 subscribers, so thank you so much. Keep leaving your positive comments, and so if you've had a cryptid encounter, certainly we'll leave the number here, the email, so you can contact us. We want to hear from you. And so we're going to continue to work really hard every week to bring you some crazy, scary cryptid encounters. Tonight we're going to be talking to a gentleman that called us out of Eastern Ohio, and his name's Darrell. And Darrell has some extremely interesting encounters that I don't think you're going to hear elsewhere. This gentleman essentially lived and continues to live with Bigfoot. And he offers insight I think is just mind-blowing. So it's extremely interesting discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with Darrell. So we'll just jump right in. And so thank you again for all you guys and gals out there that are loyal listeners. We really appreciate it. And we're going to continue to work hard for you guys. So our website's coming up, so look for that. We're really excited about it. We're going to have a ton of cool cryptid things in our store, so that'll be coming up. So sit back and enjoy tonight's episode. Well, thanks for calling us, Darrell. I really appreciate it. And if you want to go ahead and start about your story and kind of what led into things, I'll let you just take it away.
Well, I'm sitting up here in the woods. I figured if I'm going to talk about Bigfoot, I might as well go out here where I do my camping at.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. I got a tent up all year round where sometimes I come up there and sleep, jump on the four-wheeler and go home and go to work 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, you got to put a lot of time in the woods to even begin to understand a little bit about them. I've always been a loner. I've lived in the woods. I was around 40 years old, exactly. And I was a sheriff deputy. Okay, then I developed severe PTSD.
Okay.
And at that time in my life, you know, you don't really care if you live or die. You know, it just really, I don't know if you ever done research on PTSD, severe. It just numbs you where you just don't care no more. Well, that's the state of mind I was in at 40 years old.
Sure.
Okay. I was off work. And I'm heading to town to get lawnmower gas.
Okay.
And I just look in the rear view mirror, the side mirror on the driver's side, and I see something cross the road that you will never, ever forget. Anyway, when I'm going down the road, I just looked in the mirror, left side on the driver's side, and, you know, I don't know how far back, 75 yards maybe. But, you know, of course, it's got the bent legs and the hump in the back, and nothing about it was right. And I've never really paid attention to Bigfoot, you know what I'm saying, my whole life. But after I seen that and processed it and then started reading and all this other stuff that goes with it, then I can remember back in my life when weird things would happen, that more than likely it was them. It just, if you're not thinking about it, you don't realize that they're real. They're just good at what they do.
Right.
Since I know Bigfoot 100% is real for me, that opens the doors to a lot of other beings that people see out there. Are just, why do you see them? And what is the message for them letting you see them? And that's how I got started. And where the one across the road at, I'm trying not to give too much information. This is the weird thing.
Uh-huh.
My mom and dad used to run a campground, and I had a number 16 lot right there, you know, in the campground when I first got married. And across the road, I would ride four-wheelers, dirt bikes, deer hunt, squirrel hunt, all, you know, about 3 years there. And that's exactly where it crossed the road at. But, you know, I used to deer hunt there, and one time something really weird did happen back in the woods, but if you're not thinking about it, you don't put two and two together.
That's right.
But I'm rattling deer antlers. Okay.
Okay.
There's a hill to my right, hill to my left, about 75 yards back. It's kind of hay and brush and here and there. And there's a tree 20, it's a little bit higher maybe, back there shaking. But I'm rattling antlers. Okay. This tree I could see started shaking left to right, like, out of the ordinary, but I still didn't catch on to it. The only thing I thought, it was the biggest whitetail buck in the world over rubbing this tree.
Right.
And so I lay my antlers down and I grab my shotgun and I aim because I'm waiting for it to come out.
Right.
But it never did. So I walked down there and, just after about a half-hearted stand there, your arms wore out, and you finally just walk down there and there's not a rub on the tree. There's no deer prints on the ground. There's nothing. But that tree was shaking like it was, crazy. So after you see one, then things like that could pop up in your mind that they was probably getting my attention because there was probably another one close to me. That and there, because the only reason should be doing that is get my attention. It's my opinion. And once I focused on that, the other one realized it ain't two bucks fighting, and everything's gone. But I just wrote it off as a big buck.
Sure.
And I must have been rubbing that tree, and I missed it. I couldn't see it.
Oh,
but things like that happen.
Sure.
And after I seen it, the one across the road, and everybody says bear and all that kind of stuff, but your brain will absolutely loop when you see one. That's if you're not, looking for one. You're not even thinking about it. You haven't been thinking about it. And once you see it, your mind goes into a fog.
Sure.
Like, I try to tell people go, oh, you would have hit your brakes or you would have done it. No, you don't know what you're going to do until you experience it. And, I'm sure if you're walking on a trail and one jumped in front of you, that's a whole different story. But when you're looking in the mirror and seeing one, it just puts you in a daze.
Now, between the time that you saw the tree violently shaking and then you had the road encounter, what period of time was that?
Yeah, years. Okay, I was probably 26. So when I was 40, when I seen it across the road at the same place, just across the road, quite 15, 20,
Sure.
years.
Okay. Was the tree shaking episode the first weird thing that you can recall that later, like you said, you kind of look back at all your experiences?
Well, there's, when I was real young, we always thought our house was haunted. My sister's always looking in the window. We didn't have no neighbors but one, and they lived about, half a mile away from us. And we had dogs all around the house, chickens and everything, and, bangs on the house and stuff. Back when you were a kid, it's all ghost.
Sure.
It's all, that's how you brought up.
Sure.
And we didn't think about Bigfoot back then, none of them. Really, I've lost family members, a lot of them, and friends, just because I believe in Bigfoot now. But scent, like if I'm deer hunting, when I was a kid, walking in cedar thickets, I know what bucks smell like in rut and stuff like that. But every now and then you'd get a smell that you're not familiar with, and weird vibes, kind of make your hair stand up a little bit.
Sure.
But but that's just natural things when you're in the woods. You don't know if you're scaring yourself or what.
Right.
But after I got older and I seen it across the road, it took me a little while to really process that it's real. You try to come up with everything to explain what you've seen because you think you're nuts. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You just think, wow, did my mind make this up? Did what's going on?
Right.
So you just finally have to. I learn about it. I lived. I read and I read and I read. If you come up a road, there's a trail. It's 2 miles long. Okay. At that time, I had PTSD. Okay.
Right.
How I got myself back in order mentally was exercise. Okay. I would walk this trail, and when I first started walking, I could barely make it. It's down a hill, up a hill, up a hill, down a hill. It just took your knees hurt. You just wore yourself out.
Sure.
When I was walking this trail, weird things would start happening. Okay. You're supposed to be out there but dark. But when weird things start happening, you start looking for answers. I guess that's where, when I was a deputy, you look for answers.
Sure.
And I even had calls when I was a deputy that was probably Bigfoot related, but since you didn't think about Bigfoot, you didn't put two and two together.
Right.
Like I went to this one farmer. I'm just going to guess he's 40, a little bit older. I got a call, and I go there, and it's Ohio. And when I pull up, there's a woman, 2 kids, and the guy sitting there with a shotgun. And the women and kids was crying and carrying on. And I pull up in the deputy car, and I ask, "What's going on?" I jump out, but I don't know what's going on.
Sure.
Well, they said, well, a screen come off this hill just vibrated our whole house. Okay.
Wow.
I'm looking at them. I'm thinking, this really happened. I can see the whole family faking something like this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So the guy's got the gun, and he don't really want to tell me. Now that I think about it.
He knew something more than what he was willing to share.
Yeah, exactly. But he wanted me to come up with an answer, but I didn't think about stuff like that back then.
Sure.
We had one bear call in 10 years in the county, and they got collars on them, and they just, run across the county, and they don't really stay in where I live at anyway. Because the game wardens got trackers on them, and we know where they're at all the time. When you see a Bigfoot and a bear, there's no comparison. I'm sure some people mistake and, see them in the bushes and stuff and call them a Bigfoot.
Yeah. One's usually on 2 legs and one's on 4, typically.
Yeah.
So,
and when you see it, when you really see one,
right.
there ain't nothing going to change your mind.
Right.
But that was the beginning. But I would walk this trail, and it's about 7 miles from where I seen it cross the road. And I'm going to tell you, it's a trail. Okay.
Sure.
Nobody ever uses this trail. Somebody donated, and they said the guy was crazy when he died, and they took his land. Well, he gave his land as donation to the state, which the more I think about it, the guy probably wasn't crazy. He probably knew what was on it and just donated the land so they wouldn't build houses and stuff on it.
Sure.
In my opinion. I don't know that for sure.
Well,
but
that would make sense.
Since I know they're there, but,
sure.
When I'd walk this trail, I'd have trees broken. It makes no sense. A brand new tree broke crossing my trail, and I'd have to push it out of the way. And I'm trying to figure out, why in the world would this tree be broken? The wind's on the right side. I'm on the left side, and this steep hill, no wind even gets back in there, not unless we get a real bad storm, and it comes from Ohio, and that very, very rarely happens. And still, you don't pick one tree out of 100, and one of them break and the rest of them don't.
That's right.
Not unless it, if it was rotten, I could see, but this ain't rotten, so stuff like that would start happening, and I'm thinking, what in the world is breaking these trees across this path? So, when I could, I'd push them out of the way.
Right.
But the more I kept reading about Bigfoot, I knew that they'd like to come out at nighttime. So I would stay up there at nighttime, which I knew I would get in trouble if he got caught up there at nighttime. You got to be out there by dark. But, I didn't really give a crap at that time. When the trees every now and then would start blocking my path, I was catching on that, the trees are too big to be broken by humans. Plain simple. They're just too big. They're brand new trees. There's no reason it should break.
Sure.
And there's no other trees falling making it break.
Right.
So once I figured that stuff out, I said, I'm going to go up at nighttime and sit down. So I went up there. I'm not saying I went up there. This is over 5 years now. This ain't just 1 month or a week or something. This is 5 years of research, or I guess you call it research and learning.
Sure. Right. Investigate.
Trying to accept what goes on at nighttime and sometimes daytime now. But back then, I would hear, like when I went up there at dark time in this big valley on the other side, I'd hear tree slams that would vibrate you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, teetotally, you can feel it in your bones.
Man.
And this tree didn't fall by itself.
Right.
This stuff, it's like it's been dropped out of an airplane and dropped and hit the ground. And so I would find a big tree and I'd put my back against it and I'd overlook this valley. And every now and then these tree slams, and I took it as no trespassing. Stay out of here at nighttime. That's the way I took it. Now, I don't know if that's what it meant, but that's why I took it. But one night I was it's always about 11:30, something like that when it happens. I'm overlooking this valley. I did not hear or see nothing, but a vibe came over me that it made me feel like I was having a heart attack, adrenaline rush, you name it. My body was saying, get up and run. But, like I told you, I had PTSD. I didn't care. But I still got that feeling that, run. Run. But I didn't.
Okay.
I just dropped my flashlight and it wasn't on. And I sat there and vibrate for about 20 minutes. Okay. My whole body would just sit there and just totally vibrate. I don't see how I didn't have a heart attack. To me, they can put off a different frequency and put that feeling in you.
Yes.
But it still took a long time for me to catch on to that. But I would sit there, okay, then I would hum. I would do anything to try to keep my mind off of running or, when you get scared that bad, it's fight or flight.
Sure.
But I would just sit there, okay? When the feeling went away, I'd walk a mile to a mile and a half back to the truck, and I'd come home and tell my family, and they knew I was going through a bad time, but
sure,
they didn't really realize what I was telling them was true.
Yeah, right.
It sure was. And after I'd done that for a while, the tree slams and stuff would quit. I'd go there night after night, and sometimes I'd love to get the coyotes going. To me, there's nothing better to get a bunch of coyotes going, hollering, carrying on.
Right.
But sometimes some of them didn't sound like coyotes. It's like one might have started, and the rest of them a mile down the road or down the valley would start. But it was kind of neat back then. And tree slams would stop.
Uh-huh.
So I said, I'm going to walk down in there tonight. So there I go. I walk over the hill. I walk down the valley. Of course, I'm scaring myself because I don't know what's going to happen. So, you're scared, plain simple. But
sure,
it's about I don't know how far, but when you go down in the valley, it's just real quiet. The wind's not down on that side of the hill. And when you get to the end of it, you have to walk up this big steep hill to get back to make a circle to come back on top of the hill.
Okay.
Well, I done it. I made it to the top. I said, well, it wasn't that bad. Nothing happened. I said, no, really, I just scared myself, I reckon. And I walked probably another 200 or 300 yards, and I stopped. And I put my foot against a tree. You know how you rest? You just put your foot against a tree backward and lay your back against it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I started hearing footsteps. Okay, and I'm thinking, okay, is it a meth head up here or something? Because meth head's bad around county, probably everywhere else too. But you got to have a flashlight, night vision, or something to walk through the woods when it's dark. I mean, totally dark. And whatever it was walking right at me.
Oh boy.
Okay, I got my phone out and I started fiddling with it just to keep my nerves. You know what I'm saying? Because you hear it coming, but it's walking right at you. And so I just stood there and I started playing with my phone, and it got about 30 feet from me and stopped. Okay, and I'm standing there, and of course I'm vibrating again, carrying on. And then after I calm down, I get my flashlight and I say, I'm going to turn my flashlight on, and I turn it on. There's nothing there. Okay. That's my first walk up.
Wow.
That's what I call a walk up.
Yes.
And, now I've had probably 20, 25 of them. Once I lost my fear, I'm trying to jump ahead some because I can go on forever.
No, you're fine.
After you have so many, after you lose your fear, put it that way.
Yes.
Because after you figure out they're not going to hurt you, and the way I look at it, I kind of think they're kind of scared of us. So when you go out there and sit by yourself, it kind of puts them in a position. This little human, is sitting out here against this tree with nothing, not a gun. I did carry a knife, but it wasn't for Bigfoot. It was just, I always carried a knife.
Right.
And I think it puts them in a position. If this little puny human can sit there and take me walking up, I got to walk up on, I got to meet him 50-50. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So after you do that over so many times, I think you start building a relationship, like a trust.
Yeah, like a respect.
I'm not going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hurt me so far. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's how it started. And I would go behind my house, which is another 5 miles on down the road. And I'd go back up in here, and I would get nothing. But after 2 or 3 years, but I used to come back here and deer hunt, squirrel hunt. I did things they didn't really like, and they didn't really trust me in this area. But since I got into Bigfoot, I don't I don't deer hunt no more, which I would if I need for food.
Right.
And I teach my boys never shoot nothing that you don't eat, and always respect. Don't go out here and shoot and carry on and leave animals laying. Kind of what's what I say.
No, you're fine.
Become friends with Bigfoot.
Uh-huh.
Now I stop and pick up, like if a bird's been hit on the road, like an owl, chicken, hawk, things like that, I will pick them up. Either I try to doctor them or I take them to a rehab, get them fixed. I don't kill deer no more, not unless I have to.
Understandable.
And I will if I need to. I will teach my boys just in case, something happens, you need food, you know how to do it, but always show respect. And so after I did that, and behind my house, it started behind my house. When you trust each other, they will come closer to you where you live at. Okay, then I kind of think they move around you, kind of. Or when they're passing through, they come bang on your house and, hello, and then they'll walk on. um, a lot of weird things would start happening that people call supernatural, but I call it lack of knowledge.
Sure.
It's just we don't know how they do it,
Right.
and so we call it that. But boy, they are good at what they do. And I would start camping, and I would start learning. They will leave. I'm trying to hold a lot of stuff back. I even built 2 of them, Bigfoot. Okay. I gave one of them away. He's 8 foot tall, 4 foot wide shoulders.
Oh, wow.
I built one for people to see that people who can't see him, I built one so they could see. And once I built one, this is when all the, what I said, supernatural people call started.
Right.
That's when that stuff started.
Was this outside your home, the supernatural activity you're talking about, and where you built this Bigfoot?
In and out. In and out.
Okay.
In the house and out. I built the Bigfoot inside my house, all except the head part. My ceiling wasn't tall enough to put the head on, so I would tell you where it's at. It's in Cherry Log, Georgia, in the museum. They got a Bigfoot museum down there, and I gave it to them. And the reason I did it is because there's so many people that want to see one. And I'm not saying the way I built his face, they all look like that. I'm not saying that.
Right.
People jump all over me and go, "You don't know what one looks like. They look nothing like that." I'm not, tell you the truth, they're about like people. There's a lot of different looks.
Sure.
But I built that one for people to realize what 8 foot looks like, 4 foot shoulders, and some people just love it to death. Some people just get scared. You get all different kind of personalities when you build something like that.
Sure.
But when I meet people who have fresh Bigfoot sightings.
Yes.
Like, you take somebody that lives on a farm 20 years. All at once, they see a Bigfoot. For no reason. There's a Bigfoot.
Right.
I've lived here 20 years. To me, that is a message.
Okay.
That is, they're trying to tell you in their way, something ain't right, something's about ready to happen. And usually, not long after that, something happens, or you're going through a bad time, like I was, PTSD.
Right.
Some people they care about, I reckon, and some people will never see them. I don't know about that part of it. They pick and choose who they communicate with.
Right. They decide to reveal themselves when they choose to at their own timing. For whatever reason.
Yes, for whatever reason. There's many different reasons. So now when I go and people talk to me, I want to go for them. But people don't understand what I went through when I built one. I got a bonus. But when it first started happening, it scared me to totally death, because I didn't know they could even do things like that. I go from not believing in Bigfoot, or not thinking about it, put it that way. At 40, and 8 years later, where I'm at now, like I can go up here now and fall asleep against a tree with nothing, and they might wake me up, but they always wake you up just before they do something. Then they'll do it, then you go back to sleep. But I'm not saying they do everybody that way. Because when I come in the woods, I have good intent. I'm not up here trying to get blood samples, hair samples.
Right.
I'm just up here to be up here with them. And every now and then, they'll come around and let me know they're around, and do things that reached through the tent, touched my foot, just multiple things, and some other things that I probably should leave out because if you don't experience it, I don't expect anybody to believe it.
Well, let me ask you this, and totally, again, I always want folks to talk about what they choose to talk about. So I'm not trying to force you to tell me anything you don't want to, but I'm just curious. You mentioned sometimes when you're sleeping, they'll let you know that they're around. So can you go into detail about some events or episodes that was very interesting or maybe scary to you when you were out there by yourself?
Well, when it first started, when I would first start experiencing these things, yes, scare you to death. Or you think you're nuts. Plain simple,
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure there's other people who experience this. It's just they don't talk about it.
Right.
And once you talk about it, you're crazy. So people don't talk about it, but they can do things that really, really amazes me. I'm gonna give you one that didn't happen long ago, which my poor dog's dead now. I had a French Mastiff, and he died about 2 weeks ago, but I made him a house dog, and my youngest boy, he's 17. We were sitting in the front room, and I just got back from a trip, and I've noticed this too. If I leave for a few days and come back, that night they always do something because it's like they're happy I'm back. They will let me know they're around.
Sure.
Then they go on. Just plain simple. That night I got back. Me and my boy was sitting in the front room with my French Mastiff, which he's 100 pounds, and he was making high pitches trying to get my dog to bark because my dog don't like to bark. If he barks, there's something wrong, or he won't bark. My son, and he's trying his best to get my dog to bark, and all at once, sitting on the couch, right beside a window.
Yeah.
Okay, which it's got window blinds down. It's making these high pitches, and the dog just looking at him like, what in the world are you trying to make me do? I ain't barking.
Right.
Well, all at once, you hear grrr, through the window. The dog's hair stood up, and he just absolutely went crazy. And I look through the window blinds, and I can tell my motion light's on. So I run around to my outdoor porch.
Yeah.
Of course, you ain't gonna see him. Plain simple. If they don't want you to see him, you ain't gonna see him.
Yeah.
And but
sure.
I thought that was so funny that he was trying to get the dog to bark, and the Bigfoot behind my house, I call Twist. Okay.
Twist.
I do give him a Twist.
Why do you call him Twist?
Well, he likes to twist trees and stuff like that. And it's so much easier to give something a name.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You come back here and say Bigfoot, you're talking to all of them.
Right.
But
gives them a character.
A certain name. Yeah. So then, but that was funny. Then I'd go back here at nighttime, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I just can't hear them talk or something. Maybe they're on a different frequency, and I can't hear them. Just like a radio stations, AM, FM, TV channels. Maybe we just can't hear each other or So I started doing hand claps. I would hand clap one time. That means no. And I would shake my head no. Then I would clap my hands twice, and that would mean yes. So I'd shake my head yes. So I would do this off and on for about a month. Nothing ever happened. So I stopped. Well, about a week later, I go back there and I get off my four-wheeler and sit down, a hand clap. That's how things work. I would go back here, and as far as I can go, and I would take this rock, and I would hit this tree. Boom, boom. And I would do that over and over and over. Nothing would ever happen. One day I go up there, I sit down, bam! Man, they hit the same tree that I hit. But, you know, just they always catch you off guard.
Yes.
They never do it when you expect them to do it.
Wow.
And I've had a ball with them, and you know, but when I built one, well, two really. I got one in my house now, and I named him Twist. But the first one I built is Raven. I called him Raven, and he is in the museum down Cherry Log, Georgia. And that's the reason I built him, is for other people to look at. But there's other ways they communicate with people that people don't want to talk about. And I'm sure when they come to you in physical form, you really kind of don't want that. You know, if you're not thinking about it and not looking for them, and you see one, like this is like, you know, you're walking and there's one walking across the trail.
Right.
You know, always remember for a sign. I'm not showing you me for nothing.
There's a reason why they've revealed themselves to that person.
Yes, for that person. People's always saying, "Oh, Bigfoots, they're monsters," and they get the guns out and they start shooting, and before you know it, Bigfoot's mad. Everybody's scared, and they move, and everybody loses at the end.
Well, I was just going to ask you, do you think from your experiences that Bigfoot almost yearns or seeks for some type of connection to humans?
Yes, most definitely, but they don't know how.
Yes, they don't know how to communicate that, and vice versa, but there's some type of a desire for a certain type of communication.
Yeah, it's just like people like to fit in. But,
yes.
You know, in their case, they look completely different. They act completely different. Everything's different. Now and the first thing humans want to do is control the whole area. Okay.
Yes.
If we can't control it, we got to kill it or run it out.
Yes.
And they got their way of living, and they like to come and watch, and when they get sad and stuff like that, they want to help, but people's got to understand they do it in their way, not human ways. And it's just so much more to it that I wish I could help a lot more people, but a lot of people just don't want to accept any of that at all.
Can you go into some other types of activity you've experienced when you were by yourself? You mentioned where they would poke your tent or touch your foot. When you established this connection of sorts with them, from that point, did they ever, in your opinion, seem to try to scare you, or was it more of an acceptance of you and a non-aggression type of demeanor that you sensed from them?
Well, at the beginning, now remember, 50-50. Remember, I'm in the woods, scared, lonely, vulnerable.
Yes.
Now, when the very first time they do a walk up on you or two, they will stomp kind of hard and break a couple limbs when they're walking toward you. Okay.
Yes.
That means they're scared too. Okay. They're hoping you're going to run because they don't have to get close enough to you. But if you sit there, they got to keep it coming because they got to fight their fight and flight too. But
right, the ball's in their court.
Will make. Yeah, but once you come over that fear, then you start. Which takes time. Don't get me wrong. Now it takes time.
I understand. Sure.
Then you start enjoying your benefits of losing your fear. Then you can make a connection with them. Then you think you're in a sci-fi channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel protected once you've established this rapport with them? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well, I can go anywhere now. Just like I went 2 weeks ago to my sister in northern, almost to Pennsylvania, and they had a bonfire, and there's 3 of them outside there, okay? And they started hearing a lot of tree breaks and stuff, and And I tell them, I tell my sister, which I got 3 sisters into this now, and they all 3 have Bigfoot connections now, but it took time. It took time, you know, you got to change your whole belief system almost. But when she told me they was making them sounds, they don't usually do that unless they're nervous or irritated. And I said, just let me come up there and see what's going on. I said, just don't bug them. Just don't bug them right now, because when there's 3 people around a campfire and they're breaking limbs and stuff like that all around you, they're nervous. They want you out of the area a little bit, okay?
Right.
But you just got to be calm. And I don't know what, you know, if somebody shot at them before, or, you know, they can get mad just like a human. Just plain simple. You just don't want to make one mad. You just want to stay on the good side. That's the reason I say always have good intent.
Yes.
Always have good intent. And so when I went up there, I walked down the woods and I got nothing at all. Which you never do really, and not unless they want you to. But it's usually when I go places, it's the very last night when I'm getting ready to leave the next day when they do something. So I was up there, 4 days, 3 nights, and my oldest sister was in a little camper with me, and my middle sister was in a camper beside us, but she's had a lot of experiences too now. She just absolutely, you know, has absolutely changed her whole world. But my oldest sister, she still got a little bit of fear in her, okay? Because I can talk about it, but when it happens, it's a different story. If you're with me, you know, or if you experience it. And,
right.
And I told them, I said, well, if they're here, it's going to be the last night probably before they do anything. It's usually, you know, rock your camper or something like that. Well, anyway, I'm laying there, me and my sister, it's about 12 o'clock at night. We come from the house, we go to the camper, and, so there was quite a bit of us in her house. Her house couldn't hold us all. So we slept in 2 old campers, and the rest of the people slept in the house, and my other brother and them went to a town, stayed in a motel. But that last night, my oldest sister has never experienced them rocking your camper and stuff. And but to me, it's an honor, okay? Because they always do it on the last night, and it's their way of saying goodbye, you know, whatever. That's their way of doing it.
Sure.
Well, anyway, I'm laying there, and she's laying on the other bed, and she got this little white poodle in there. Well, the poodle comes over to me the 3rd night. I said, "What's that dog doing over here?" I said, get on over. I said, they ain't gonna bother you, because I knew when that dog was wanting to sleep with me, something was outside. Right. I knew something was wrong.
Sure.
But the first 2 nights, he would sleep with her. Well, the dog would jump on the floor, then he'd get back in the bed, jump on the floor. And I just told the dog, I said, go ahead and lay down. They ain't going to bother you. And it wasn't long. Here it goes. The camper shakes.
Oh, my.
My sister jumps up. Darren, can you hear it? Did you feel that? I said, yes. I said, about damn time they get here.
You're like, oh, well.
It's going to come.
Yeah, like, well, I expected this.
Well, she jumps up and looks out the windows. I said, you ain't going to see nothing. Just lay down and enjoy it. I said, they don't even have to do this. I said, that's their way of saying goodbye. But that was the first time she's ever experienced that, and she is still hyped. This has been 2 weeks, and that's all she's talking about over Kentucky where she works at. And I told her, but you know, people don't believe me until you experience it. That's the reason I was telling you, there's more things I can tell you. Right. But I think you would have to experience it yourself in order to believe it. Because if I say it, it's just going to sound crazy, and just people are just going to go stupid and crazy over it.
Well, you mentioned at night that you'll go out by yourself, and you've been doing this for a long time, but have you had a sighting during the day?
This is where I got to be careful. One-time physical, remember I told you what I was going through?
Yes.
Okay. The rest of the time is like what people call supernatural.
Okay.
You can hear them walking around you, and a lot like I was saying, where I'm sitting at right here. Since I give Raven away, and I love to experiment, especially when I first started. And the more you try to trick them, the harder it is. You just might as well give it up. But when you just get tired and just find you a nice place where you feel comfortable and sit down and just relax, and you might have to do it for a week or two or a month. But I guarantee you, if they want to come to you, they're going to come to you on their terms. So That's how you gain trust. That,
So right now, as we speak, you're in the woods, you're in an area where you've experienced activity. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Many times.
Yes. So where you're at right now, the last time you had activity, describe that. What happened?
Oh, just had my tent up. And, when I first started off, they like to make that stomping noise when they walk towards your tent. And they could do other things, too, which I'm going to tell you, but I don't want you to air it after they get to you.
Okay.
Then sometimes they could be right here with me and just start walking off. You know what I'm saying? They've been standing there that whole time. Or up a tree, and they jump and they make a loud thud and just start walking off. And I've been here 2 or 3 hours, and didn't know they was even here.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, weird things happen. But it's all trust and friends, and just you're in their territory. Just respect. Have good intent. That's all it is. You have good intent. Come up here, and they just love to watch you more than anything. They want you to go to sleep so they can get closer.
That makes so much sense because, and I mentioned this before, you draw upon your own experiences when you're talking about Bigfoot, and we go down every year to Southeast Oklahoma and deer hunt. And, well, it's always probably about from 2 to 4, we have activity. And just the last time we were there this past fall, I heard footsteps right outside my tent. It was probably 2 a.m. And what's interesting about that, it was very, very subtle, but I was keyed in on listening very, very intently because that's where we're in Squatch country down there. And when I heard that, I questioned myself and said, do you really hear that? And I'm like, it's almost like you're having a discussion with yourself and questioning yourself. And when I basically realized that, yes, you're hearing footsteps outside your tent, and I had my son with me, it is very scary, and my heart was racing. I felt I had an adrenaline rush, and it was probably 22 degrees. But what's interesting about that, and I didn't know this at the time, what we did when we set up our tents, we put kind of like a pop-up gazebo right in front of the tent and then put tarps around that. So when we get outside of our tent, we've got an area where we've got our boots and all of our equipment. And so it's kind of a nice setup. Well, so we had a tarp, and actually...
They didn't like the tarp, did they?
Well, here's what's interesting about that. So my son and I, we're sleeping in a tent, and we don't have the gazebo situation or the tarp, but Lance is next to us, just a few feet away with his son, and then Lane's sleeping in the gazebo area where there's the tarp around it, right? And at the corner is where you walk in, you kind of pull the tarp back. Well, we can't count the number of times we pull the tarp back to get inside and out of that thing all day long. Getting our gear, putting stuff up, whatever. About, 2 or 3 in the morning, I didn't know this at the time because I heard my footsteps, but just prior to that, I learned later in the morning, Lane said he was sleeping and the tarp pulls back. And and Lane's looking, and he's looking into the dark, and he's freaking out because there's no light. He was thinking, well, maybe it's one of my other brothers saying, hey guys, whatever. And there was no light, and Lane's like, Lance, just trying to tell, because of course Lance is in the tent, and Lane's like freaking out, but Lane's like, you know what? I want to see one. So he gets the light and just walks out, and there's nothing there. But but the timing of that's interesting, because that's about the time I heard the footsteps around the side of my tent. And I think what happened when Lane went outside to investigate with his light, shining it around, that's when I heard the footsteps along the side of my tent, which was out of the line of sight of Lane. Because I remember seeing Lane's light shine, and I thought someone was just going to the bathroom at night. But that's what happened. So it was, I think, like a curiosity. They saw, they were watching us all day long, I'm sure, and they see this.
Oh, yeah.
They're wondering,
watch you.
Yeah, they're wondering, what the heck? These guys are going in this corner, with this tarp. They're pulling it back and forth. I got to try that. So,
Yeah. Really, we scare ourselves so much. It's awful. It's really awful. But, it takes a long time to figure out.
Yes.
They're very, very curious.
Very curious.
And it only takes one person with you where you won't have an experience too. It all depends who's with you.
Yes.
You won't have any experience. One person can ruin it for the whole group. It's very weird. They pick and choose who they want, and that's the reason I always go by myself. And I've only had one other person with me that had a walk up, and that was my dad. And he's 81, and it freaked him out so bad. He was white as a ghost, and but it was me and him sitting around a campfire, and I just had a feeling I needed to bring my dad up here. He was going through a bad heart problems, and so I brought him up here, and sure enough, I kept hearing weed snaps, so I'd go over in the area and make sure, and pee and make sure it's not deer, or because the deer run off, snort and carry on, and possums. So I'd go over and sit once in a while just to make sure it wasn't an animal. So after I'd done that the third time, I knew it was them. So when I come back and sit down, it wasn't about 2 or 3 minutes. Here he just walked. But you can't see him. He just walked right in front of our other side of our campfire. Because the campfire blinds you. So they like to get on outside where they can see you. But when you sit out here in the pitch dark, it's a whole different world. But where I'm at, I don't have to worry about bears or nothing like that. So I'm putting all my trust into them. So I have more experiences with them now because I have trust.
Have they tried to gift you with animals or rocks?
Bones, feathers, you name it. There's a lot of things I probably even forget. Like I like to walk around and stick flowers in the tree bark. Well, I got a tree in the yard that my mom and dad planted. It's a princess tree. It's got a bunch of nuts on it. It opens up and the nuts fall out.
Right.
The shells are still on it, and they're like 20 on a little bitty limb. Well, I get on top of the hill, and there's one stuck in the tree bark, sticking out right in front of my four-wheeler trail, from my house.
Oh, wow.
So, and they will leave, like, a lot of things I'm sure I miss that they leave for you. You gift them, they'll gift you. But it might take 2 or 3 weeks or months. If you take figurines with eyes, and I figured out that owls, they don't like owls, fake owls with the big eyes.
Yes.
I don't know why. Both places that I mess around with them here is after so long they cannot stand it. They will pick them up. The figurines are about 6 inches tall. A figurine a woman to have on a shelf.
Yes. Uh-huh.
They will pick them up and face them down every time.
Really?
Or pick the eyes out of them. I don't know what the owls,
You've tried different figurines and items to see kind of what they like and what they don't like.
Well, I go to my sister's house. She says, Darren, I don't know why I don't have no Bigfoot experiences outside here all the time, but she don't know what she's looking for. So I'm standing there looking at her little garden that she got flowers, and what's them things you stick in the ground, and they look like the sun or an owl or...
Yes.
Well, when I'm looking at her little flower garden, there's 3 of them turned around backwards. And I'm talking to her. I said, you don't have Bigfoot activity around here? She says, no. I said, well, who turned them things around on you? And she didn't know it. And she goes over there, and then she realizes they don't like eyes looking at them. Plain and simple. They do not like you sticking something in the woods. They will turn it around every time or face it down. And that's when you know you got Bigfoot in your area, if you do something like that.
That's interesting, yeah.
You have to give them a couple weeks.
Sure.
But sometimes I don't think they're here all the time.
What do you think their patterns are regarding migration, living? Do you think they travel a great distance from where they hunt to where they live? I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, I kind of, yes, do I think they move around, but I think they leave one behind to guard the area. But I think the rest of them, because, it takes a lot to feed a clan, plain simple. So
sure.
They have to do something. Now, do they migrate real far distance? I don't think they do that, but I'm not a professional on that.
Right.
I don't know.
It just depends on the habitat.
But I do think they make some kind of big circles or something like that. Like when they bang on my house, it might be every 3 or 4 months before they do something like that. Or they can walk up to your tent and it sounds like they drop a box of dishes. Just, you name it, they can mimic it.
It's kind of like a puzzle piece, right? And of course, light years about these things more than the lay person, but just me being a lay person, I don't consider me an expert at all. Really, you're the expert, if anybody, because you're experiencing these things up close and personal. But yeah, it's like a puzzle piece, and it's almost like, as I learn more of this, I mean, I don't think it's far-fetched at all.
Well, you have to think about receivers. Our brains are receiver. This telephone breaks it down so we could hear each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything has receivers.
Sure.
Frequencies, wavelengths. It all started, I think, my opinion, is because I made one.
Now, tell me about that. Let's go into that. So, like you said, you made one. Did you set it outside of your house? What did you do there? I know you said you set one inside of your house, but you made 2. How did that work?
Well, the first one I made, I had to, because I seen it. Okay, then like I said, you got to process it. It takes time, and for some reason, I had to build it, and I didn't know I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I'm going to do it, and I started off out of dog pipe, dog fence pipe. You know what I'm talking about? Like 1.5 inch metal pipe.
Okay.
And I would weld it like a stick man.
You're fine.
Then I would use plumber strap and stuff like that for his ribs and make his muscles and his legs, his muscles. And then I would put chicken wire around that to make skin. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Then I would wrap ace bandages around the chicken wire so I could glue the hair to it. Okay. It took me 2 years to make it. It's pretty cool. When I was making him and when I was making his feet, you would have the feeling like he could just reach down and pick you up at any second. That's how it felt, how real he is. It just really freaks you out. But
Wow.
I had him, and I would take him around, and for the sheriff department, we'd have boot camp for kids.
Yes.
And if they graduated, they got to see Bigfoot. So I'd set up a big tent, and I would show Bigfoot to the small kids and stuff, and they really enjoyed that. But you have to watch how you present it because he's so big. And I made him where he didn't have no teeth showing, so the kids didn't get scared of him. And I would lower a tarp a little at a time so the kids would not get scared, and talk to them at the same time. And because to me, I want people not to be scared of them, not unless there's a reason scared of them. I'm sure there's some, like, there's bad people. I'm sure there's a few of them will put a good butt whipping on you too if they want to. I don't know, but I have never had a growl. I've never had nothing ever from them.
I was going to ask you, anything ever thrown at you?
Maybe a little pebble to get my attention.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, right here. I did make one mad one time, twist. Me and my two sisters are sitting right here's a big tree laying down, and I have a rubber mat, and I'd lay my back against this tree, and on this great big white tree in the front, I drawed a Bigfoot on the tree just for experiment to see what they would do. Okay, we're sitting about 20 feet from this tree, and it's the moon. I mean, it was just a perfect night, quiet, and nothing was going on, which I know they was here. They just like to watch you. But I had my two sisters with me, and I said, I told my sisters that I'm going to try to get him going a little bit. And I kept hollering twist every now and then. Twist! Well, I did it about 15 minutes. And there was a limb come from someplace that I couldn't even find. Okay, but I'm going to tell you about that in a minute.
Sure.
We're laying against this log, and we hear something coming. So we all grab our head and roll, and it hits the ground, probably about 8 to 10 inches from the back of my head. It just smashed on the ground, and I rolled, and I got up laughing because I know I pissed him off. And he's saying, I'm here, just shut the hell, leave me alone. But when I shined the flashlight, there's no limb there. So did he project that? I don't know, but we all three ducked our head and rode. So, did he take his fist and do it? I don't know, but there's nothing there. But we all heard it and heard it hit. I'll tell you how they might be able to project.
Yes. I don't know how much you watch YouTube, but there's one researcher, investigator, I'm not sure how he wants to be called, but one channel that I'll sometimes watch is a gentleman, it's Utah Sasquatch. And I really respect this guy. I don't know if you've watched him or not, but he is boots on the ground, goes out in the field, and you can see prints. He'll walk up on stick structures, and he has a good, I think, understanding of Bigfoot. And
he probably knows a lot more than he's telling you, too.
Well, yeah, probably so.
A lot of people won't tell you.
Well, and he does share a lot, and he's got some really great insight. But when you're saying what you're hearing, or at least perceiving, he said one time I think he had some type of thermal or night vision, but he saw, I think he said it was two, maybe it was one, Squatch not too far ahead of him, but that he could see it using its mouth of some sort, but vocalizing a tree knock. And that was to him wild, because it's like, well, I mean, a tree knock, it should be where they're actually knocking a stick on a tree, but here he is describing this, actually vocalizing a tree knock. When you say that you heard this log flying through the air, but yet you didn't see anything, it's almost like, it seems like it was probably projecting that sound.
Gotta be. there's nothing there. And we all three look, and there's nothing there. But, after you just got to know not to shove them too far. They prefer just to watch you, plain and simple. Go to sleep and let me play around with your stuff and walk around you and touch you on the shoulder or breathe on your neck or I don't know what else. There's so many things that went on, but I've got to see different kinds. I've seen some big enough that it's like they could take a battle tank and just flip it over if they wanted to. But they had the pinky skin and built like I don't know what you would say. And I've also seen little skinny old ones.
Oh, really?
Real old, bald-headed with just a little bit of hair on top, gray skin, hook nose, red hair from the neck down, or from the chin down. They got like a little beard. I think people call them the ancient ones, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not for sure. It sounds like what people call the skunk ape down in Florida. Red hair, real thin and skinny, old.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a female or a young one.
Wow.
I don't know why, but I've never have. It's always been the big males or old ones. To me, I had to make up my own mind that I said I live on an island. I haven't been taught nothing. So whatever I experience, I'm not letting other people's thoughts put like demons and all this other stuff in my mind because I haven't been taught this.
Right.
I'm going to go from starting over. I'm going to experience everything, and I'm going to judge for myself what I think it is. And that's how I had to do it. They can do a lot more than what we've been taught.
And I'm glad I read this book before I talked to you. And I'm not saying that this is the end all, but if you ever get a chance to read a book called Enoch, a Bigfoot story.
I done did. I loved it. The guy's telling the truth, but people went looking for him, and he said he lied. But the guy's telling the truth. I guarantee you there's too many things he went through that I go through, and I knew he was telling the truth, but he ended up saying he's lying, so people leave him alone. People don't want to believe that stuff's possible. And I knew when he said he had PTSD, okay, when he would turn around and Bigfoot be standing there for no reason, just out of nowhere, boom, there he is. And they will get mad and put a butt whipping on you if you make them mad. There's too many things in that book. I love that book.
A lot of things that you describe almost like the exact same thing. And you know what's interesting? So I talked about Utah Sasquatch earlier, and I was watching a video, and he was talking about it, and he was like, a lot of the things that's in this book I experience. And of course, like I said, been following him. And so I read the book. I'm like, wow. And I told Lance, I'm like, you guys, I told all the team, Lane, Dave, Lance, I was like, you guys got to read this. And so Lance read it, and we're like, wow. And so when you were going into your story, I'm like, man, this is wild.
Well, see, I talked to David where Raven's at, and I picked up that book, Enoch. And he said, Darren, I don't know if you'd like that book or not. And I said, why? I said, cause he said, we sent some guys down there and, some things don't add up. Okay. Of course, when you got PTSD and stuff and you get bothered, you will end up breaking and you will say anything to get people away from you. Yeah, I made it all up. Just go on. Because people ain't going to believe you anyway. People want to believe what they want to hear.
That's right.
And
they have their mind made up before they even hear anything.
Yes.
They just go back to what's default. Default is what I already know,
yes.
And they're not opening their minds.
Well, see, my three sisters, all three of them now experience all kinds of weird stuff. But now they're used to it. They love it. They crave it. They can't wait for it, something to happen. The tapping on the glass, the banging on the side of the house, rocking their camper.
I interviewed a lady here in Oklahoma who had an encounter just 20 feet away. And this is actually in a city, by the way, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And
they go anywhere they want.
She went off the beaten path from the local golf course into a wooded area because she had heard some weird sounds at night, really couldn't sleep, had a lot of insomnia, and actually had gifting at her front door with aquarium rocks, candy wrappers, bricks, in a real neat pile. And she kind of put two and two together and thought, you know what, I don't know, I got to kind of go out and explore a little bit. So she did, came across a Bigfoot where she could just see its eye. She said it was the most beautiful thing she's ever seen, and it was just a blessing, and she wasn't scared. And she said it was the biggest, shiniest black eye, as big as a tennis ball, she saw in the crotch of a tree, looking right at her, blinking. And she said it was a windy day. She saw the hair kind of going across its eye, and it was blinking every time that happened. And this went on for about 5 minutes, and she was just in awe, and again felt just at ease. It was just really an enlightening experience. And not about 5 minutes in, she heard a whoop just off to the side into the woods. She looked over there. She couldn't see anything, and she said she felt really uneasy at that point, like kind of almost like she said, and this was her words, like she was hypnotized. And so she kind of got out of that hypnotic state and felt, okay, my welcome's over, and walked away, backed away. But she said it was an experience that she'll never forget.
And there's a reason she's seen that Bigfoot. If I was there, I would ask, is she going through a hard time? Is she single? What's going on? Does she need to go to the doctor and get a checkup? Is something about ready to happen? Yeah. He's warning her.
Well, she's a great lady that, she mentions this in the interview, that she has a lot of chronic pain, rheumatoid arthritis. She said she was feeding the birds, or at least she thought she was feeding the birds, would put old moldy bread, ball it up in balls, put it up using a ladder on a 7-foot fence post in the back of her yard with fruit, apples, oranges. She said that the apples were usually left behind, but the oranges and the bread was gone all the time. So for 2 years she did this, thinking, man, those birds, they're hungry. And then after about 2 years, she's in the last year started having this gifting on her porch. And then here just past January had her encounter.
Yeah. When people see fresh sightings, I go for the people. That's what I always tell people. I go for the people. I want to figure out what's going on, because I might be able to stop something, or they could be just really, really depressed. And if I can get them over the fear, okay, that Bigfoot ain't going to hurt you, or he wouldn't be making contact with you right now. And then if I can get you and him to make a connection, then you can see what I'm talking about. But you have to, the fear part is the hardest thing to get over.
As you know, there are times where there's aggressive encounters. So what do you say to those folks? They've had extremely frightening encounters that they don't know who to go to. They're so scared. They don't want the ridicule. They're having a hard time. What would be your advice to them?
Sometimes, okay, if some people can even get PTSD after a Bigfoot encounter, okay?
Yes.
It scares them so bad.
Yes.
It just destroys your system. It all starts with belief system. But once you go through it, it might take years to help that person. And really, you really have to stay with them and convince them, go out and, go with them out in a tent where they had the interaction at, and sleep, just show love and talk to them and see what was going on. Something had to happen, or the thought process of the person, what was he thinking when the Bigfoot made its reaction? There's a lot of things that we got to figure out, and it could take years if you have a real bad encounter, because we're taught this stuff ain't real. Okay, then once you experience, especially a bad part of it, it will act, it's just something that it takes a long time.
Yes.
To help them, and can even help some people if it goes too far. You just don't know what they've been through or what else, except the Bigfoot. What else happened in their life?
Right.
Yeah,
there's other factors beyond that encounter, certainly, that is involved in that. It dictates the overall outcome of where they're going to be, down the road. Certainly, prayer goes a long way. I think it is therapy to talk about it. And as we can understand this more, it's going to help those folks that are really struggling. And that's why we decided to start a channel to not only help folks kind of work through this, even though no one's really an expert on this.
No.
You're right. No, we're definitely not the expert on it. And anyone says that they're expert on Bigfoot,
it's crazy. Not crazy, but there's no such thing.
But people know what we mean by that. There's no expert on Bigfoot. You just can't be an expert on it because there's so much to learn. Mm-hmm. And as much experiences as you've had, the more you learn, the more you don't know anything.
One step forward, 3 steps back every time.
Yes.
You think you know something and you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
It just keeps right on going, and I don't think it ever stops.
Well, and let me ask you this. Do you think do you ever just, when you're out there, you're talking, you're carrying on a conversation, does that not go a long way in your opinion?
To them?
Yes, talking to them out loud, yeah.
Yes. I'm constantly, if I got somebody I got sisters, I love horseback riding, and we go to Tennessee every place, and when I'm with people, I do it in my head, okay? I don't speak out loud. People,
yeah,
crazy daring anybody because I believe in Bigfoot.
Right.
So, but I'm telling them, come see me tonight, what I do. And when I camp, I always try to get me and my sister away from other people so we can have experiences that night. If somebody's too close to us, forget it. You won't get nothing. But especially that's in new places. I haven't been to a place yet that I couldn't get experience if I had the right people with me. Me and my sister have a ball. We went to Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
Excellent place. So we've had, for a week straight, I'd pay $1 million for it. My sister was so scared for a week, but she loved it at the same time. But she got validation, what they can do. But if they get too close to you, they will lock you up like you're in a seizure. Okay, you will lock up and you can't do nothing but move your eyes, or you can think, but you're scared. You can't even think.
Like mind control to some extent.
To me, they're on a different vibration level. Okay, when you mix two vibes together, it just don't mix. So in my mind, I tell them to back up a little bit, and I can't even see them, but I tell them to back up, you got me frozen. Then I just come right out of it. But they could be standing right outside the camper. I've had them hit right on the bottom of my foot because I got restless leg syndrome. I like to prop my legs up.
Yeah.
And I can hear them in the gravel. Okay. When I focus on the feet steps, they'll stop. Okay. And when I forget about it, I hear them walking again. So they just pick up on things that I don't know how they do it. I guess we're all like antennas. We're all putting that out there, and some's receiving it, and they're putting it out there. We're putting it out there, and we all got different receivers.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Some people can hear things. And have you ever heard stories where people have Bigfoot encounters, and there's one guy sleeping and never wakes up, while the other two people are having terrifying encounters and knocking on the walls and scared to death?
Well,
one guy's laying there asleep.
Yeah, I think some people are oblivious to it.
Yeah, it wasn't meant for that guy. So he wasn't living. It wasn't meant for a guy to sleep. They could even scare a dog plumb to death, or that dog will never know they're even around. It's their choice, whatever they want to do. It's just all I can tell you is don't make one mad. uh, become friends with them, have good intent from your heart.
Sure.
When you're from your heart, you can't go wrong. You know what I'm saying? And these people who have bad experiences, sometimes it's a belief system that it's so unreal it can't be real, and it shocks them. It takes time of love. You got to show them love.
Yeah, and of course your experiences, what you've described to us, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am. I want to ask you, have you gifted back, and what have you gifted to them, if you don't mind sharing that? What do they like?
Okay, I've tried food myself a little bit. They didn't care much for my food. What I usually do is feathers. Like if I'm walking and I find a turkey feather or, blue jay, whatever you want, stick it in the bark, or have your little favorite place in the woods that you'd like to go to and just fall asleep and relax and talk to them a little bit, because they're listening. It's just, you ain't going to see them unless they want you to.
Yes.
Or I was going to tell you about, like, some people carry a lot of guns and stuff. I don't blame people because it's all how you experience your first time to start with. I used to carry a knife. Remember I told you?
Yeah.
Well, I would go back there camping, and I even quit carrying my knife. It's like, why are you carrying that knife? We are not going to hurt you. We know you got that knife. But,
sure.
I live in an area where I don't have to worry about bears and wolves and, and there's other things I'm still leaving out a lot of things because I just don't want to go too far, but you have to take an extra step to get past that fear, make a connection, have good intent and love for each other, and they will come protect you, plain and simple. I've been at my campsite, and my other two boys walk up, and I smell Bigfoot all around them. I ain't no doubt in my mind, the Bigfoot escorted them up there. He's like, do you want these boys here? Okay. Then once they get there, the smell's gone.
Have your boys experienced them also?
Yeah, but I'm showing him what to look for, how to have love when you come back here. Sit down, talk to them, just go back. It's like they come back later and pick up what you said, then they'll be back at your house, and they'll let you know in a week or two by a bang on the wall or something. And some people scares the tar out of them just to hear a bang on the wall. To me, I just laugh and see you later, Twist. It's just Twist passing through.
Can I ask you this? I want your opinion on this, and then we'll wrap it up. And I've mentioned this before in previous episodes. When we went deer hunting, the last 3 years I've been there. 1 year, we got there first night. It was dark. We were sitting at a campfire, and there was a tree that fell in the woods. And these trees are about 100 feet tall, pine trees. And it was probably 30 yards in, probably the tree line, and it just shook the ground. And we just set up from the...
Yeah.
It startled us, obviously, and we're looking at each other like, what the heck, And so we kind of shook it off and, sat back down. And but what was interesting, Lane came the next night, and a tree fell on the opposite side of his tent. And I'm just wondering, what were they trying to communicate, in your opinion, based on your experiences? Is that, hey, get out of the area, we don't want you? Or, hey, no, this is just our way to communicate, we're just telling you that we're here?
Well, the trees, remember I told you the tree slams stopped after a few months when I first started. Now, I had PTSD real bad.
Yeah.
So I had bad thoughts. Well, bad, I shouldn't say bad.
Negative thoughts.
Yes. That all the stuff that I've seen, and I about to have to, kill a guy and stuff, all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
So it really bothered me. So I'm thinking this kind of stuff as I'm sitting there, and these tree slams and stuff would start down this valley, just shake your whole damn body when you hear it.
Sure.
And but after I got healthy and healed, I haven't heard a tree slam since. That's been years ago now. So it's some kind of communication, but also sometimes you can hear a tree slam and try to find it. Sometimes you can't even find the tree that fell.
Well, that's interesting because we never saw a tree that was downed, but this seemed like it was 100-foot tall tree that slammed down, and we kind of looked around, and of course it's forest, it's thick, and obviously we can't look at every tree, but we didn't see any tree that had fallen.
If a tree falls, it brings limbs and all down. You can hear the cracking and popping.
Yeah.
With these trees, you can hear this slam, this boom, just vibrate the whole ground.
Well, that's exactly what happened to us. We didn't hear tree limbs being broken as it was falling. It was just a slam all of a sudden.
What I would do when you hear things like that, if you out of the ordinary, you know what a regular old tree sounds like and what one don't sound like.
Yeah.
To me, they're letting you know they're in the area, okay? When you're deer hunting, be careful because they run in clans, okay? They do have babies and women and stuff, and maybe he's trying to tell you, I got my family around this area, but all you got to do, really, it sounds crazy, is we're not here to harm anybody. We're here just a deer hunt. This is my boy. You just talk simple. Like when people have bad encounters at their house, stealing their chickens and stuff, all you got to do is go out there and tell them to stop. It's just people don't realize that because they're not real. You know what I'm saying? Or they're monsters. But if you go out there and put the law down, they got to listen. You tell them, hey, that's enough. No more chickens. Don't be taking none of my chickens. I'm done. I can't afford that stuff. They will stop. But people don't believe that. But you just have to. That's the reason I like to talk to people that's having the experiences. And I can tell them, hey, you got more power than what you think. But, just like my wife, she still gets scared. So I had to tell Twist, quit coming around the house. Cause once you get over the fear and you're out here sitting like I am right now, pitch dark, well, not pitch dark, but, I can still see in the sky the stars. So I'm just sitting here. I know they're all around me. None of them's doing nothing. They're all just sitting here listening to me. Now, that's the reason I said, if I'm going to talk about them, I'm going to do it in front of them.
Now, let me ask you this. Like we've discussed already, you're actually on location, so to speak, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, basically. It's dark, and like you just said, I mean, they're all around you. What are you sensing from them? Have you heard anything? Footfalls, breathing, anything?
Dead quiet.
Dead quiet, yeah. But yet,
that's when you know they're around, when they're dead quiet.
See, that's the other thing. When we're camping, it gets eerily quiet at times to where it's an uneasiness quiet.
Well, they can put off a vibe. Even everything can pick up on it. And everything goes quiet. It's like they're sending out a sonar, okay? And everything picks up on it. And it's just quiet. Somehow, I think they're all connected. Yeah. Everything's connected somehow.
Yeah.
That, it's just lack of knowledge of our part. And I think, just like if you got a fly on your arm and you go to hit it, watch the thing fly off just before you get to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He knows your hand's coming. Just, the worst thing in these woods that I'm scared of, chiggers.
And like you said, it's taken you years to get to that point, though, right?
Years. Yes, I was scared to sleep by myself. I damn near sleep under a mattress when I first started. But it was fear. Once you get over that fear, it's just scaring yourself and your belief system, how you're brought up, and the things that people tell you. Have you ever had somebody even tell you something and you get goosebumps on your arm?
Yeah.
Just for them telling you.
Yeah.
See, it's just built in you.
Sure.
And you have to overcome that.
It's kind of wired, yeah.
And once you overcome that, you can start enjoying life, the nature. Well, I'm more scared of a human than I am anything else.
Right. And let me ask you this. You mentioned experiencing the PTSD, and exercise certainly helped tremendously with that. But then describe how much, and I probably already know the answer, but I was kind of asking for our listeners how much your experiences that you've had over years, how much that's really benefited you regarding your PTSD, regarding the Bigfoot experiences.
Well, I think I faced my fear a lot more because I had PTSD. I didn't care if I come out of the woods or not. So that's one advantage that I had. Which I shouldn't say advantage, but I'm saying that's how I faced my fear a lot easier because I didn't care what happened when I was in the woods. So, but when I found out they was really real, it really shook my foundation of my whole world. You know what I'm saying? It really just absolutely blew my world away because I was raised up Jehovah's Witness. And I come to find out that's where I told you I had to start all over. I had to start and experience everything I experienced. Don't put nobody else's thought into it.
Right.
Just mine.
Right.
How do I take it and go from there and go for years? And that's how I done that. And the PTSD, I don't think you will ever really get over if you got a real bad, severe case of it, but you can help it a lot by exercise. Find the biggest, steepest hill you can climb and climb that thing, go down it. You know, if you think you're going to have a heart attack, climb it again. Get your mental state back. Get your health back where you can jog. Nature can heal.
Right. It's a healing process.
I know of a few people who know exactly what I'm talking about, and they live it all the time, but they just don't go that far as like I told you. They know it, but they don't tell nobody else. Some people want to keep them a secret, but some people don't want to be labeled crazy.
Well,
there's a few people out there that know, but they just don't want to tell nobody.
When you said that when you were driving and in your driver's side mirror, you saw a creature that had a hump in its back, I mean, what do you think that was? And was it on all fours? What was your description of that?
No, it was on 2 feet. Had a hump on its back. His legs are crooked like you're sneaking, but not sneaking at the same time.
Okay.
And, you know, it's just black. It didn't even look at me. He went sideways. And to me, this is my own opinion. It was meant for me to see because the state I was in. So they knew that I lived in the woods a lot. So I think when they could pick up on what I was going through. So once they showed me that they was real, and I've never, like I said, I've never even thought about them really. I've heard people talk about them, but I never did think about it. But that got me to the woods.
Right.
Some people might have went to fear, but when I seen it, I got to prove it. And the only way to prove it is going to the woods. And I try to do it the other way, like other people do it, and I had no success. So I'm going to tell you exactly what I done. I walked outside of my house. I looked in the woods, and I said, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you're called, I'm at my ends wits. If you're real, please let me know. I said, I know I seen you, but I can't prove you're real. And, but that's all I need. And, that was it. And I walked in the house, and 2 weeks later, hello. So all I did was ask.
If you don't ask, you won't receive, right?
It took them to help me.
Yeah.
It took them to show themselves to me to get me back in the woods, camping, hiking, getting back what I used to do when I was a kid, younger. And because when you're a deputy, you see a lot of bad stuff, and you see the worst in people.
Yes.
Everybody you go to has got a problem. Plus, you got your own problems at the house. You understand? But when I seen the Bigfoot, it made me go to the woods. Now I got a mission. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got something I'm going to make. I'm going to do it for me. I wasn't doing it for the world. I'm doing it for me. And I went out and I went hard. And I went through a lot of stuff that scared the crap out of me. But over time, I learned that I was scaring myself 99% of the time. It's just they crack a tree and make a couple stomps towards me, and I'll be scared to death for no reason. Now, they didn't do nothing but make a few sounds.
It's so interesting how, with all the difficulty in life people have, financial, health, stress, etc., depression, anxiety, that in your case, it took what is considered a beast. We talk about Bigfoot, that actually in the end was your therapy, it sounds like, to get you to where you needed to be.
Ain't that cool? It's completely opposite than what people thought for me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
What they call something that was a beast was like an angel to me. Here I am 8, 9, 10 years later.
Yeah.
Sitting here.
I really think that nature is healing, even if it's sitting and listening to the birds. Deep breaths outside, it really is healing. I mean, we're wired for that. We're not wired to look at four walls. We're wired to see nature, to see beauty, and that's what you've described. Most encounters we hear they're frightening, they're scary, and a lot of what you've described too, at least initially. This is an episode that is way different than maybe the typical episode people are going to hear. It's an episode that actually almost turns things on end. Based on your experiences, it's actually somewhat healing if you approach it in a certain way.
How are you taking it when it happens?
Yes.
Why did it happen? Learn what's going on at that time in your life. Why did you see it to start with? When you live here 20 years, then you see one. Something he's showing you, or her, or a different being. There's different beings. Why did you see it? And start thinking about your life. Should I change my way of living? Think about it.
But do you think that you started experiencing it because you were willing to be open to experience it, right?
Yes. Well, I've always been open-minded.
Right.
But I've never thought about Bigfoot. But
right.
I've heard it on TV before, Grassman or something like that, but I never did. I even had a friend in 7th grade talked about a Bigfoot whooping two coon dogs, but I didn't think nothing about it. I just laughed and went on. But when you see one, that's a whole different story. That'd change your whole world.
Well, can I ask you this, and then we'll just wrap it up? So what would be your recommendation when we do go out into the woods and we choose to carry a firearm, not brandish it, because we don't believe in that, and we carry one more of a self-defense measure? You mentioned just basically saying, hey, we're not here to harm you. Is that basically your recommendation? What would that be?
Just tell them why you don't have to say it out loud. Just tell them why you're carrying it. If you have to draw a picture of a cougar, however you wanted to get it across, the communication. If you don't think they're understanding, draw a picture of a cougar or draw a picture of a bear and draw a picture of your gun. There's nothing wrong carrying a gun as long as you got good intent.
I see.
And I understand where you all hunt. I don't have to worry about them kind of animals, cougars and bears.
Well, Darrell, I tell you what, your stories, they're beyond what I expected when I started interviewing you. And I think a lot of people out there are going to maybe think differently about what their thought is of Bigfoot, that it's not necessarily, in all cases, a beast that's out to kill, but it's really about perception, and you've explained a lot. Well, let me ask you this too, and do you ever see prints?
Well, let me tell you about prints. When people go out and they think prints,
yeah,
that's all you're thinking about.
Yeah.
That's all you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes they give you a print. Okay. Whatever you're looking for is usually what you're going to find. Just not every day. Just once in a great while, they might throw you a little bone. And yes, here's your footprint. I've seen 3 feet print. The first time I was walking through this one hill, and this is when I'm first learning. I'm thinking, how come they don't leave feet print here? They're breaking down trees and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How come they're not tearing down these spider webs and all kind of stuff? But I was thinking it. I wasn't saying it. And one day, I walked through there, and there's one footprint right in the middle of the mud, and my wife and little boy was with me. We even stuck our foot in it, but I didn't cast it. I scraped it and said thank you and walked on.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you, because they somehow picked up on what I was thinking. I don't know how they do it, but they left me one footprint for my validation. Yes, we are here. There's one footprint for you. But, you know, when I first started off at the very beginning, yes, I tried tricking and everything. I had a camera in my back pocket. I'd walk around with a mirror. I finally had to give all that up. I had to give it all up and just come out here and just sit and let them come to me.
Yeah. They figured that out real quick.
Whenever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whenever they wanted to. It's their choice.
Yeah. It's always on their terms, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's their terms, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not crazy. I hope you understand I'm not crazy.
No, that's our motto, is we're open. But I appreciate it. It's wonderful to have spoken with you. You've provided so much insight. I think this is going to be a great episode. We'll be in contact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.